Well, there's no doubt about it that the British Formula 3 Championship is, without doubt, one of the most competitive championships in the world. It's been that way since the early 80s when Ayrton Senna came over to Britain and began to ply his trade before he became a three-time Formula 1 world champion. Well, with me is Karun, who is obviously chasing that same dream and doing the same as Ayrton did all those years ago. You're here in Brackley, and we've just seen the kind of competition you're up against. First of all, tell me about the championship itself.
The British Formula 3 Championship is the premier Formula 3 Championship in the world. You mentioned obviously Senna came up through British F3, but you know the likes of Hakkinen, Barrichello, Coulthard, D'Amata, Montoya, you know all the big names, Button, you know all the big names have come through this formula, and undoubtedly for any driver who wants to get to Formula 1, which is my aim obviously, this is the biggest stepping stone.
So who's the current crop you're up against? Some of the drivers that you perhaps know are already on their way to Formula 1?
Well, a lot of the drivers who I'm up against already, you know, have had Formula 1 tests or have deals with Formula 1 teams. So, you know, they are obviously the pick of the bunch for drivers on the way up. You know, the likes of Danny Watts or Adam Carroll, Nelson Piquet Jr., obviously the big name. You know, the son of three-time world champion. You know, there's a lot of big names in the sport in the formula. So it is a very, very hard championship. You know, if you're 2/10 off, you could be, you know, P9 or P10, and you know you're sort of thinking, well, 2/10 of a second, that's less than a blink of an eye, and you know you're 10th on the grid. So it's so competitive. But for sure, I think when you do a series like this, if you move onwards and upwards, it prepares you a lot better.
Now, of course, you've been a champion in Asia, but it couldn't be more different here. You've done one season in the scholarship class, but this is your first foray as a championship contender.
Yeah, it's been a little bit of an up-and-down season. We've struggled a little bit with consistency and speed in qualifying. You know, we've been quite often we'll be very quick on the Friday test or you know the practice session before qualifying. You know, quite often in the top three. But for some reason we haven't been able to translate that speed into the qualifying sessions. You know, the race pace is good and the races have always made up places, but unfortunately in F3, like in Formula 1, qualifying is very important. You know, we think there are a few reasons why it doesn't come together, and we're working hard to address that, you know, from this weekend at Oulton Park and for the rest of the season, so hopefully that'll start to come together.
Well, of course, the racing is a massively important thing. You have to get the results. But there are other aspects to motor racing and trying to get into Formula 1. And one of them is fitness. Perhaps a lot of people don't know just how fit motor racing drivers really are. They're like sprinters or tennis players. They have to do fitness all the time, and it's a massive part of trying to drive the car fast. Here's Karun in action as he tries to work out at his home in Brackley.
The gym I use in Brackley is quite nice. I've been going here now for the last 2 years, and they're really friendly people. And you know, it's not a very big gym, but at the same time, there's not that many people in there. So I like it. It's almost, you know, it's like my private gym, and I use the back room. And you know, I've got all you know, I put a lot of my own stuff in there, just because obviously a lot of the equipment is quite specialized again. Fitness in motorsport is very, very important. The more physically fit you are, the less mistakes you make in the race, in the car, and the more consistent you can be on a test day. And you know, it just means that you can concentrate a lot better. If the weather's nice, I like coming out here to the lake or training outdoors. You know, I love jogging out here. It's really, you know, it's quite nice. There's a lot of sort of specialized exercises that you do for motorsport. The main exercise really is for the neck, because the G forces you face in Formula 3, you know, we pull up to 3.5 G in the high-speed corners, which means your head weighs 3.5 times as much as it normally would. So you have to really strengthen your neck up quite a bit. And also it's important to do a lot of shoulder exercises as well to get the shoulder strength and upper body strength. The other side of it is obviously you have to have good balance, because it's all about feel, it's all about balance, it's about you know, driving the car on the limit, but you got to feel the limit and feel the grip. And for that, you know, I do a lot of exercise with the medicine ball, or the exercise ball rather, and just to try and, you know, get your mind in tune with balance, balancing on the ball or doing push-ups on the ball. When you do the upper body strength, you do it with light weights, because you don't need to be like Arnold Schwarzenegger. You don't need to be massive. It's all about muscle toning. I do some exercises which light weights simulate with the steering wheel to try and simulate as much as possible what your body goes through in the car. In the off-season, when I'm back in India, off-season, I do a lot of swimming, and I train up to even 4.5, 5 hours a day over the winter. During the season, a little bit less, because you don't want to risk injury, obviously, you know, and jeopardize your racing season, so I do maybe 3 or 3.5 hours a day. But it is a lot of hard work, but it's hard work that has to be done if you want to make it all the way to Formula 1.